We don't put Trail 13 on visitor maps. It's there on our master as a faint gray line with a hatch across it and maintenance only stamped in a font nobody uses anymore. The trailhead post used to say 11 to 12 with an empty bracket at the bottom where 13 would go. Every time we paint over the ghost, the number comes back under the latex like a bruise. New rangers ask why we don't fix the sign. Old rangers tell them there is no Trail 13. The truth lives between those sentences and in the faces you'll see at 4 a.m. after you've walked it. We keep 2 sets of notes. The official log calls 13 an unmaintained fireline remnant that intersects Trail 9 and 10 near the east saddle. The other notes are the ones we tell each other on the porch when the thermos is empty and the radio is quiet. If a couple follows a hand-painted arrow that shouldn't be there and vanishes between mileposts, you know where they went. If you go after them, you go alone or with someone who can keep a rhythm out of your head because 13 hums. You can feel it through the soil if you kneel. A faint, patient vibration, like a transformer buried too deep. The land looks ordinary until it doesn't. On 13, the second growth firs lean a hair off plumb, and the duff lays in waves like a tide froze mid-surge. There is the smell, too. Not rot, not flowers, something between hot dust and pennyroyal that makes your tongue feel slick. There is no moving water on that slope, but you will hear a stream on still days. It will be left when the map says right, it will be downhill when the watershed runs the other way, and if you go to it you will find dry stones and your own footprints turning a circle where you thought you stood still. The mileposts are old cedar slabs cut by the CCC, hand-carved numbers, pleasing and square. On 13 they go 0.51, 1.53, then sometimes back to 1. The only camera that ever caught that did not keep the file. We have a card for 13 that isn't laminated like our other trail briefs. It's paper that's been folded so many times the fibers remember the creases. The rules are written in 2 hands. The first 6 are mine. The last 4 are from a ranger who retired to a smaller county and never answers his phone. They go like this. 1. Do not step over the chain that bars the old alignment at the quarry cut, even if it's lying in the leaves. 2. If you hear running water, keep your line and keep going uphill. 3. Don't take pictures of the mileposts. 4. If you find survey tape that is green instead of ours, don't follow it. 5. If your radio whispers your name on channel 2, you switch to 1 and you don't answer. 6. If you count more than 12 switchbacks, you stop moving until the wind comes back. 7. If you meet maintenance wearing white hard hats, ask them what year it is. 8. If the trail smells like ozone, you hum your own song and break your steps. 9. If you see your light make a shadow that doesn't line up with your body, step out of the beam. 10. If you reach a post that says 13, you turn around unless you know exactly who you're going there for. The night last October started ordinary. A couple from the city, early 30s, left their car at the north lot for a sunset loop on Trail 9. They texted a friend a picture from the overlook and then nothing. The friend waited through the movie, through the credits, called us at 11:18. We found the car at midnight, still warm. Found their footprints, clean and paired, heading back along 9. Half a mile from the junction, a hand-painted arrow on scrap cedar pointed left with a simple 13 and a smile scored into the grain. It was nailed to a fir we had cut last winter. You learn what new looks like in an old place. That arrow had been there a long time and also not long at all. The prints went left. I called it in as off-trail. Dispatch told me to stage and wait for my partner. I told Dispatch I'd keep eyes on the line. I wasn't brave. I just know what 13 does with more than one heartbeat. I radioed my wife first. Old habit, old superstition. To tell her I loved her and was going to be late. Then I stepped past the place where the arrow would have been if we'd never cut that fir, and let the hum climb my calves like an old injury. The first rule on bad ground is make it ugly for the place that wants you. I broke my stride on purpose. I counted in primes. I scraped excess across the duff with my boot heel every third step. The smell came up in a wave and made my molars ache. The wind died the way it does before lightning. And in the quiet I heard water chuckling over stone to my right where the topo says there is none. I kept going uphill. My radio clicked as if a thumb had brushed the button. Channel 2 opened with my name in my own voice, a hair too careful. It asked me if I had eyes on subjects. It used the phrase subjects. I switched to one and said my call sign to the real dispatch and got her sleepy thank God, which I put in my pocket like a coin. The trail forked where it shouldn't. The right branch had our blazes from years ago, orange paint faded salmon. The left had green tape with survey in a font we don't own. I kept my hand on bark as I passed and it was warm. The couple's prints stayed paired until the first switchback, then staggered. There was a spot where two sets of knees had hit at once and the leaves were scuffed in a starburst. Beyond, only one pair went on. I found her scarf snagged at shin height, bright wool wound tight around a stem as if it had been tied there by small fingers. It smelled like her shampoo and like the pennyroyal hum. The lone prince kept a good pace, then shortened, then began to angle toward the sound of the non-existent creek. I dropped surveyor's tape in a color we don't use on public days and spoke a breadcrumb into the mic dispatch could hear. My breath sounded like someone else's for a while. I don't like to put people in these places. I don't like to put myself there. But you cannot ask 13 to give someone back if you don't show it what you're willing to spend. I kept going past where my card says turn unless you know exactly who you're going there for. I knew her name from the missing persons sheet. I did not say it. The post that said 13 was at the place it always is and never is, clean cedar where there should be rot. Someone had planed it last week and also in 1938. The numbers were crisp. There was a second hand-scored line below. Do not descend. The earth to the left breathed cold. A cut between boulders stepped down into a black that felt like felt. The sound of water came from inside the hill. I took my webbing and tied it off to a root that had grown sideways into a question. Then I turned my radio to 1 and told dispatch I had sign and a hazard and would be off comms for 5. The radio did not kick back. The hum did. It rose like a throat clearing. From below, a woman's voice said hello in a way that was patient and wrong. I didn't answer. I let the voice hang there the way a snare drum does after you touch it. I knocked once with my knuckles on the rock to my left and waited. It answered twice, too clean, too quick. I took my headlamp off my forehead and held it at arm's length to the side so my body wouldn't cast a straight shadow. The beam cut the slot like fog. My shadow didn't line up. It lagged a hair, as if the light were coming from somewhere else 10 feet back. Rule 9. I stepped out of my own beam and the lag snapped into place. The cut dropped in 2 shelves. The first was damp without water, stone slick as if licked smooth. The second breathed cold. The smell of pennyroyal thickened until it tasted like a coin rubbed raw on my tongue, and under it the faint hot metal bite of ozone. The hum resolved into a 4-step cadence the way a generator settles under load. I broke mine first, 2 short steps, 1 long drag stop. I counted primes until the numbers untied the rope in my chest. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Hello, the voice said again, patient as a clerk. Not her, not quite. Tested a laugh after, but put the breath in the wrong place. I edged down the first shelf, webbing around my waist, humming against the rock. The second shelf opened like a throat. The sound of water rose from inside the hill. I shined into a black that wasn't absence so much as texture, the way flocked paper drinks light. At the lip, 2 figures stood where no figures should stand. White hard hats, canvas jackets with stripes that weren't DOT issue, gloves that had never known oil. Their lamps made halos without beams. One lifted a clipboard as if I'd been expected. Trail is closed, he said in a voice like an intercom smoothed between passes. Subject transfer at marker 13. We'll take it from here. What year is it? I asked. Both heads tilted the way deer do when they can't smell you yet. 19 and 38, the left one said without commas. The right one said, 2004. As if picking a card. Their smiles had no corners. Appreciate the help, I said. But I didn't file a work order. I kept my hand on the rock. The stone felt like skin over a drum. You boys have a radio? Channel 2, the left one said, perfect. My radio clicked in my pocket, my name in my voice, asking myself if I had eyes on subjects. I turned the knob to 1 hard enough to bite my fingers and said nothing to either frequency. Something scuffed below, human weight on grit. A breath caught, the messy, unwilling sound it makes when a rib's bruised. "Hey!" A man's voice barked, too short, too sharp, as if he tried not to be heard and failed. He swore the way people swear when the ground is cold through their knees. I stepped down past the white hats without touching them. Their lamps did not throw me a shadow. The cut funneled into a room the size of a box truck. My beam skimmed barkless roots laced through rock, old and bright as tendons. In the far corner, a man knelt with his shin twisted under him, hands braced on the floor. He wore trail shoes, city new, and a rain shell the color of a soda can. He didn't look up when light hit him. He whispered, "No," to a voice only he heard. "Easy," I said, the word you say to skittish colts and kids in shock. Not his name. Not hers. "We're going uphill." He flinched at uphill like it hurt and then nodded on the second beat. I got my glove under his knee and felt the joint slide wrong and said again, "Sprain." I lied because we both needed that. "We'll walk it." I wrapped his ankle with webbing, made a stirrup, brought the tails up behind his calf until the knot bit. When I hauled on the standing end, the room pulled back like a tide. The hum clicked up a notch. "We can escort," said the clipboard man above us. His boots didn't scuff. He hadn't moved at all. "Tell me the maintenance schedule for 9, I said to him without looking. "Bridge washouts. Last 2 seasons. "Quarterly," he answered, wrong as a square wheel. "After snowmelt." "No one's done quarterly anything since 2010, I said to the rock. To the man, "On me. Hand here. Count in your head but not by 4s. He put his hand where I put mine, fingers shaking with the kind of fine tremor that has nothing to do with weather. When he leaned, his weight trusted me without ceremony. That's a thing you can spend your whole life earning and still not deserve. We crabbed up the first shelf slow, his breath ragged until the numbers found him. 2, he said without saying it. 3, 5. He choked on 7 like it snagged. I put my shoulder under his hip and lifted. At the lip, the white hats waited with their lamps like moons. "Transfer at 1-3, the right one said, insistent, as if the second try might land better. "Subject 1 and Subject 2. Proceed to staging." "Tell me her name," I said to the man under my arm, very quiet. "Don't say it. Think it." He shut his mouth like he'd been about to spill something and instead swallowed it back. He nodded hard enough to make his teeth click. We stepped past the white hats. They didn't smell like sweat. They smelled like dust in an attic when the first hot day wakes it. The hum warbled as if it didn't like being contradicted. Above, the mileposts were where I left them and not where anyone sane would put them. We hit 1.53 minutes after we'd left 3. Our headlamps found blazes that blinked like eyes and then were paint again. The survey tape glowed a soft sickly green in our beams. It had moved lower, waist height now, inviting the hand. I kept my palm on bark. It beat under my hand, slow as a box turtle's heart. A switchback 12, the wind died. The air made that thick, hard silence a church gets when everyone's holding the same thought. My card says stop if you count more than 12 until the wind comes back. I braced us in the notch and we stood there like figures carved on a ship's prow while the smell of pennyroyal braided itself with ozone until I thought my fillings would buzz out of my teeth. I wanted to count to 4 because that's what the hum asked for and because the body is dumb. I counted primes. Somewhere to our left water ran downhill where the watershed does not. The voice I'd heard below tried hello again with a woman's vowels and the wrong timing, and the man beside me shook so hard his webbing creaked. The wind came back like a sigh from a tired sleeper. Treetops whispered. A moth smacked my ear like a slap. We started up again, not letting the rhythm find us. 1, 0.5. The trail played with the numbers like a kid stacks blocks until they fall and then insists that's how the tower always looked. At the fork, the green tape had multiplied. Survey flags swayed where no wind moved. The old CCC paint on the right looked tired and honest. We took the tired line. The smell lifted by degrees until I could taste the night again. Damp bark, old needles, the singed pepper smell that means a lightning strike hit a ridge miles off. The hum flattened. My radio hissed with the real dispatch asking for a status. I said, 1 returning with 1 from 12, and she said, copy. and put my name at the end the way people do when they want to hear you say something alive. The chain lay in the leaves at the quarry cut, right where Rule 1 says it sometimes does. It looked like a test you give a child. Step and see. We did not step. We walked around until we found the post it had dropped from, and then we climbed over the post because the thing you put your weight on matters. The hand-painted arrow was back on the cut fur, mouth smiling like a split. It pointed into a piece of dark that felt like velvet laid wrong way. My ankle bones ached with wanting to go because that is what the place does. It finds the lazy shapes in you and presses. We hit Trail 9 and the world remembered how to be topographical. The man's breath evened. At the first blaze he cried so hard it sounded like laughter. At the lot he threw up neatly in the gravel and asked me. Once he had a voice, if I'd heard the water. I told him I had. He asked me what I'd done with her name and I told him I'd kept it in my teeth. He told me hers. He told me how she went to one knee like someone had pushed a thumb between her shoulder blades, and how when he grabbed her elbow she looked at him as if he were two different people a half-beat apart, and then she stood up and walked toward the sound of the stream that isn't there. He called after her. He used her name twice. The third time the trees said it back to him perfectly, and that was when he fell, and the rock under his knee felt like a mouth. Officially. Subject recovered. Subject 2 unaccounted for. Search continued at first light with grid and air support. No additional sign located. Unofficially. We marked a line 2 bends below the 1-3 post with tape we do not use on public days, and we do not take people past it unless we know exactly who we are going there for and what their name is doing to our mouths. I added 2 rules to the paper card and folded it until the creases found themselves. If maintenance wears white hats, ask what year it is. If they say any year like a fact, do not follow. And, if you smell pennyroyal where there should be nothing but fur and duff, make your stride ugly and keep going uphill. You'll ask why we don't close the whole section. We've tried. Every time we paint over the ghost of the number on the trailhead post, it climbs back through the latex like a bruise. Every time we cut the hand-painted arrow, it nails itself to a different tree we've already bucked. People follow new anyway. Maps aren't fences. Some places eat fences. We don't talk about 13 because saying its number tastes like a dare, and because part of my job is getting people to believe the world is ordinary enough to bring a picnic into. But if you come to my porch at 4 with a thermos and a lie you want to make true, I will hand you a card and tell you the rules and ask you not to say anyone's name until the wind comes back. And if you're on 9 at the junction and you see fresh green tape where ours is old paint and you hear water downslope where rock never runs, keep your hand on the tired line, hum your own song, and leave the dark to people who will not give it bones. We'll go. We always go. We just don't always come back with both.